I said, we're from Idaho. I'm a pretty avid hiker, especially up here. Kind of used to the weather up here. Even in summer, it tops out at like high 90s, but in the mountains, it drops down to probably 80s. Um, so I'm kind of used to that. But I had done some research on like the superstitions and that kind of area, and I was like, dude, I want to go hike there. And so I made time and planned out time to go hiking down there and looked up a bunch of trails and picked the trail that I wanted to go on. And I'm kind of like a introverted guy, especially when I'm out in nature. So I picked a trail that specifically said it didn't have very much foot traffic, which wasn't smart. But I planned it out with my wife, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to get there really early in the morning. I'll be home probably by 1. I'd leave like the trail around 11:30 or 12. And so I headed up there, and I didn't want to wear sunscreen, so I wore a UV resistant shirt, but it was all black. it was straight black.
And his shorts.
Yeah, and my shorts were
and
black.
Hat.
And my hat was black. And, I looked like a goth out there. It was not good.
I did tell him not to go, by the way.
She did tell me not to go multiple times, but I went anyways. So I got up there. It was really beautiful. It wasn't too hot. It was easily doable. I went out with...
What time was that, though?
6:37, maybe, somewhere around there. So not super hot. I went kind of prepared. I had about a gallon and a half of water and trail snacks, and I'd looked up the trail. It was supposed to be a loop. And so I had like stuff like that and a little survival kit and like a water purifier. So I thought I'd be okay. And I went on the hike, and things were going great. I'd been hiking for several miles, and the trail started kind of turning this way like it's supposed to. And I came across like some ruins. I don't even know what they were, but some little ruins that were really cool. So I continued down that trail for probably like 3 or 4 miles. And by then it was starting to get really hot. I thought for sure it'd be turning more, but it wasn't. And I ended up coming to a creek that was down there. And where I'd parked my car, there had been a creek that had come out right there. And I should have mentioned this before, but there was no other cars in the parking lot. I was the only one there. Only one dumb enough to go hiking.
Did you mention it was in middle of May?
No, it was middle of May. So it was pretty toasty warm there.
It's supposed to be like 100 degrees that
right.
day.
In Idaho, it's like 70s in May. Like, it's beautiful weather. So
straight to hot.
Yeah. So anyways, I got to the creek, and I'd noticed that a creek had let out by my car, kind of. And so instead of turning around, because like I said, it was getting hot, I was running out of water. I was like, dude, I'm just going to follow this creek. It'll lead me out to my car. Not a big deal. So I followed the creek probably for like 3 miles. And it like dead ended in this box canyon almost. Like went underneath some wall of rock there. And so I saw that and I was like, well, shoot. And at this point I was getting like pretty lightheaded. I was looking forward to getting home, and it was not going great. And so I turned and I saw that to get back to the trail, I had to climb up this like mountain that had just shell rock on it. Basically, it was going to be a really bad scramble. And so I started going up that, and I'm not like in amazing shape or anything, but I'm a decently in shape fellow. And so the fact that I had to stop a lot on that was starting to like make me a little worried, because I had to stop way more than I normally would have going up that mountain, and I was getting more and more lightheaded, and I even started getting like some chills going up that. I got to the top and started heading down. And I eventually found the trail again. I was just dragging along that trail with the chills and with the lightheadedness and everything. And I don't remember what happened, but I came to, so I must have passed out. And I had peed my pants and fallen on a cactus while I was out there. So that's my Arizona memory right there, is passing out, falling on a cactus, and peeing my pants. But I came to, and I didn't have service, but I tried sending a text to Malia that just said, I need help. And it didn't go through, and I was like, oh man, I'm in trouble. But in my gear that I brought a gun with me. I had my 10 millimeter with me because we have bears up here. We have, wolves, cougars. And so I was like, I'm sure they have stuff down there. So I brought it. And I knew that if you send 3 shots in the air and then wait and you send 3 more, it's like a distress signal. So I ended up doing that. I shot my gun in the air. But I did not think that anyone was going to come for me, and I was just so weak, man. And I can't remember what it was, but I had some sort of treat, and I was like, dude, if I'm going to die, I'm going to eat this as my last meal, It was like gummy worms or something. And
I think it was gummy worms.
Was it gummy worms? Yeah, dude, I pounded the gummy worms. I was like, I'm not going out with that. Kind. Yeah, they're like a great value kind. So they weren't fantastic, but they're good enough to be a last meal. And anyways, I was sitting there pulling some cactus out of my leg and with my pants just soaked. And
yeah, he stank.
Yeah, it was bad, dude. And was just kind of like making right with God. I was praying and I was like, oh man, I'm going to die out here and just be another one of those stupid tourist stories. And where I was at in the trail, it like kind of led down and there was rocks because I was trying to get some shade. So there's some rocks right there. And here comes this dude around the corner there.
Did you mention you're shooting?
Yeah, I shot my gun. I mentioned that. And the dude came around the corner and I just kind of turned and looked at him on the ground, pants wet, staring at each other. And he's like, hey, I heard you shooting the gun. Were you practicing? And I was like, no, I was trying to get help. And he's like, oh. And he's like, you need some help? And I was like, yeah. And so he came to me and he had some water. And so he's letting me sip some of his water and was just talking to me. And I didn't know it at the time, but he said that when he saw me, he was actually pretty worried because he saw how sluggish I was. And he was talking about how he was hiking I think it was called Battleship Trail or something like
Battleship Mountain.
Yeah, Battleship Mountain. And that trail intersects my trail.
Which was Boulder Canyon?
Yeah, Boulder Canyon Trail. And so he was talking about that. And I was like, well, I don't want to interrupt your hike, like you can leave me for dead and just continue on your hike.
With Colt, he outwalked his water, and the guy's in shape. Wasn't that. He's no stranger to the gym. He outwalked his water and then got turned around. And when he did, that's when I ran into him. And if he hadn't have made the wrong turn, I would have never seen him. There's so many avenues with this story that the first one is I'm from Florida, he's from Idaho, and we're in the Superstitions in Arizona, and that's where we meet, right? The second one, this was a Wednesday that we went. I think it was the 15th. This was a Wednesday that I'd planned, that I went. I'd planned Tuesday. I wasn't going Wednesday. I had been skydiving that weekend, and I wanted a little break because I knew this was a little bit longer of a hike than I had been on. And so prepping, I'd said I want to take it easy Monday. A friend of mine calls me and says, hey, we're going to hike Piestewa Tuesday night for the sunset. And I go, oh, yeah, that's cool. I've done that a bunch of times. I've been up Payasto a bunch. And I said, oh, I'm not going to be back in time to do that. I'll postpone it till Wednesday. So I postponed Battleship, which is the mountain I was going to, for Wednesday morning. And that's the reason that I ran into him. And he was the only guy I ran into that entire day. The entire day, I didn't see anybody going in there. I was Wednesday morning remote. You know, I worked, you know, the trailheads yet over there? Well, I was on second water, heading towards Boulder Canyon to climb, you know, Battleship. And it was a progression where I had worried about this length of hike, literally worried about it, thinking that I'm going to get out there and go past my water. When is that? I don't know. Well, being from Florida, I found out quickly that I adapted to this heat. And before you know it, I understand why people climb these mountains. The fitness is off the chain. I thought I was fit. Nope, not even close. And so that morning, heading to Apache Junction, you know, in that region, on the way there, I ate 3 bananas. I drank 2 liters of water. I took my electrolyte replacement tablets that I take. I was ready. You know, I had all the food I needed. I even carried a weapon. I know this guy Nate that works for Phoenix Fire Department trained me, taught me all of this stuff, and said, all right, this is the progression. When you can do this at Camelback, you go to this mountain. I started here. I started hiking this stuff and just walking it. This was neat to me in the beginning. Those were kind of challenging. And then, you know, I wound up at Camelback, and it kicked my butt, right? You know, that first one, and I'm like, holy Toledo. Here's another thing that I told Colt. I said, you have no idea all of the little things. There's a lady, her name is Alicia. She's a Spanish lady, mid-60s. As I was climbing, I had to stop. And I was faking it like I was taking a picture at one of the little, you know, overlooks. No, I was gassed. And, you know, like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? She walks by me with no effort, smiling, and asks me if I was okay. And I go, yeah, I'm okay. And she stirred something in me that all of a sudden I'm on these mountains every day. It became my addiction, right? And so that morning, heading there, I was ready. For whatever reason, you know, I had been prepping for this. And a couple hours into the hike, and I think it's about 6 miles to the base, then a mile or so to the summit. And somewhere on second water coming into Boulder, I heard 2 gunshots. And, you know, I kind of go, and they were distinct gunshots. It wasn't like, you know, somebody had shot something and had to kill it, or target practice or whatever. It was 2 distinct shots, and it was off in the distance, and I'm not familiar. It's the first time I've been on this trail. So I didn't know what to do other than, that didn't sound like an SOS, but it didn't sound like it was a typical gunshot. And 30, 45 minutes later, I heard 2 more. And then I go, oh, somebody's lost. There's no reception out there, phone, nothing. So I got a little inReach, you know, GPS, you know, type thing. I'm in trouble. Come and find the body, right? And as I make my way through, I go up on a plateau, and I'm coming down the second side, and I can see Battleship off in the distance. So I know I'm here. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, what'd somebody shoot at, right? And I didn't know, and I haven't seen anybody today. And this is in the afternoon. This is after 12, maybe 1. And so I just keep moving through, and I find 2 brass cartridges from gunshots, and I go, well, I'm close, you know? So I pick them up, and I keep moving. Well, I look to my right a little bit, and I see some red. So if you see red out here, right, it's not supposed to be there. It's trash, or it's somebody's stuff. And as I see this, I that's somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody. So didn't know, still didn't trust the environment I was in. Took my weapon out of my backpack, put it in my pocket, and started walking towards, still on the trail. And as I look, I see Colt underneath some bush, curled up, asleep. And he's got some makeshift camp, and it's like me looking down into that bottom, and I see him, and I'm like, this is not good. So I took my gun out just in case. I'm not sure if I'm in an ambush or what is this, right? And I yelled at him, and I go, yo, what's up? What are you doing? And he stirs, looks at me, and mumbles something. And I got up to him, and I said, what? And about that time, I saw he had a holstered weapon. And he looks at me, and he goes, I can't believe you're here. And I said, what did you shoot your gun at? And he goes, nothing. I'm lost, and I don't have any water. And I'm looking at his stuff. He's got a couple of crumpled up, plastic bottles and a little drum, like a thermos that he had dragged, brought with him. And that was it. And he was out. So I've got lots still. And I mean, if I've drank half a liter by now, I'm still good. And I feel strong, and I'm ready. For whatever reason, I'd prepped for this thing. And said, all right, we're both in trouble, dude. Where'd you park? And he's like, mumbled a lake. And I said, you parked at Canyon Lake. Holy shit, how far away is that? Pardon my expression.
You're good.
And so I had taken a picture of the map of where I was going, and I'd actually sent it to my son. I said, this is where I'm heading, And when I looked at it, I kind of projected where we were at and visualized where Canyon Lake was at and said, let's get going. We're a couple hours from there. And here we go. Got his stuff up, and he started drinking. I gave him all my stuff to drink, and I kept him from falling the entire time. And got him down. That took about 2 hours. Just a calamity mess of him, lethargic, and the typical dehydration issues that you understand what happens. And I'm seeing it for real.
What was, I mean...
Sorry about that, I was rambling.
That's all, that was very, very helpful. And honestly, you hit most of the things. I just have a few follow-up questions. Sure. Which is, I mean, you see this guy who's, looks like he's just at the end. I mean, what is the first thought? You see this guy sitting in a bush, just...
Asleep. Yes. He's in trouble. Immediately. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was, we're in trouble. Now, for whatever reason, and I had been on a ton of 911 calls, right? And I had been in these situations where I'm watching somebody not doing so well. But I have the support of the 911, right? Out here, it's me and this guy. And now it's like, there's no way I'm leaving this dude. And he's talking to me, mumbling. I said, so there's a shot, and I'm not carrying him off. There's no way. So the worst case scenario is I'm dropping this guy off under another bush, and I'm getting off this mountain to get some reception, and I'll, bring in, help to get this guy off.
But for more than, 2 hours and I don't know how many miles, you have, you and I aren't tall guys, but to take a 6'3", 6'4" man.
He was laying on me the whole time. And
how did you, just physically for you were
Adam,
the same heat?
I think about this when this subject comes up, which it doesn't come up very often now. I would think to myself, I have no idea why I was prepping for this guy, but I was. So that Colt was not supposed to die that day. And when I talked to Nate, and I go, where was he at in time? And he goes, if you hadn't have gone through there, he would have not been found till the next day. And he's either an invalid through stroke and that sort of side, or he's a dead dude. And that's when, and I know this, but I don't know the time frames.
Hmm.
Is this 2 days? Is this 3 days? I mean, where are we at? You know, how much time did he have?
How did you find that? I mean, I know you were prepping kind of in your own way to just handle these trails, but again, I mean, an extra, even if he's half leaning on you, that's an extra 100 pounds.
He wasn't leaning on me. He was draped, and it was a clampety clamp of keeping him from falling.
How did you find that strength?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying is that I pout, like, you know, Nate told me about Camelback and what to do. And he goes, when you get to this point, I could lollipop Camelback, which means I'm going from trailhead to trailhead.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So once I got to that, I felt almost arrogantly that it didn't matter what I ran into. My next, and I've been hiking, I still hike. So in Eloy, it's Picacho Peak is my main go-to every 2 days, every 3 days. And I love it. I climb with people that are even older than me. That blows me away.
How
The
old are
fitness.
you?
Sir?
How old are you?
I'm 58. Yeah, I was 57 when, you know, I met Colt. And
So, I mean, we've talked about all the coincidences, serendipity, I mean, call it what you will,
Yep.
that had you at that place at that time and him at that place at that time.
Blows me away.
Say more.
Just the mere fact that I'm not supposed to be here. He's not supposed to be here. And yet we meet, and for whatever reason, I was ready for this. Don't know why. But I was fit for that deal. And it didn't bother me. I did not drink a drop of water the entire time getting him off that mountain. All of the things, he really wasn't going to go that day either.
Yeah.
He was planning on going, I think, a day or later or something, but he was getting close to leaving. Didn't want to, you know, be cramped up from a hike, you know, on his travels back, so he went on Wednesday.
When we talk about, because I've been talking to Colt, I got the vibe very quick. I mean, he's a very religious man.
Yep.
Do you believe in coincidences?
I am a strong believer in a creator. Religion, sure, I understand it. But in the hierarchy of things, if that isn't some kind of a creator, divine intervention, I don't know what is.